Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Super Subs Podcast. Your host, Harish.
And co-host Narvin Amatia.
Yeah, so we've had another week of games across Europe that we'll touch on today. And then this upcoming weekend, uh, really week and the weekend will be international games. So tune in to that. But like usual, we'll start with our super sub of the week. Narv, you can pick your super sub of the week first.
So this was a tricky week to pick a super sub. And so for that reason, I think we touched on it in our one of our really early episodes where we always give strikers the credit for being a super sub. But this week my super sub is a defender. And I'm going with Mateus Delit just because I think Harry Maguire, he had a pretty good game versus Villa. Again, that starting role center back, and then he unfortunately got injured at halftime. And I feel like for defenders is definitely a lot more pressure coming in as a sub. And so I think Delit came in, defended well, and still came out with the clean sheet. So I will choose him as my super sub.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I don't know if he really like changed the game, but he definitely was solid back there still.
Mhm.
Because I thought Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans in the first half were the two best players in that game.
Yeah, he Maguire was really solid, so it was a little worrying once he went off injured.
Hmm.
But Delit stepped up and did his job.
Yeah, I think my super sub of the week, I'm also going to go with a defender this week. And it was from the Brighton Tottenham game, Stupiñán. At halftime, he came in. They were down 2-0 at half against Spurs, and really a lot of the pressure. Well, Timo Werner also had a few good chances in the first half, but a lot of the trouble was coming from the right side with Brennan Johnson linking up with Kulusevski and also Pedro Porro. Um, and Kadialu, I think is how you say his name, the Turkish defender for Brighton. It seems like the Brighton manager really likes him. I know that's what you mentioned as well, just from his showing out in the Euros. He had a good performance, but he was really struggling against Brendan Johnson to keep pace. He wasn't linking up with Matoma nicely as well. So I felt like Estupinian came in the second half and really made a difference. He was solid. He was able to link up with Matoma much more. And he's got that aggressive nature about him and pace. But he's also got, as a defender, the ability to go forward a little more, I feel like on the left side. And he really changed that game and they ended up coming back. And I think a big reason was because of how solid they were out there on the left side.
That's a very good shout, and it's a surprise that he's, like you mentioned, that he's been kind of dropped. Because we've seen like a few seasons ago, he was a solidified, almost a guaranteed first name on the team sheet all the time. So it's quite surprising him coming off the bench, but he definitely made that impact.
So today we'll go through each game. We're trying to work on keeping some of our episodes shorter. So we'll try to work on that today. I'll keep an eye on the clock here. We don't want to go the full 90, as we would say, but we'll go through each game across Europe for sure. Premier League, being the main league, and then touch on some other leagues afterwards. So I think we'll start with Saturday. The morning game, first game of the day was Liverpool Palace. Liverpool came out with a 1-0 win. Um, Jota scoring pretty early in the game, and then um, yeah, Liverpool kind of in control. What were your thoughts?
I thought Liverpool, they were pretty dominant in possession. But I feel like they were um in terms of actually creating chances, there's only very few and limited chances for both teams, even Liverpool, but in terms of just possession wise, Liverpool they look pretty comfortable throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I thought Gakpo, I've been a huge critic of his, and I know you were a fan when Liverpool signed him, but he really struggled in the beginning to really find his footing, maybe just pace of the Premier League, but he looked like the best player out there on Saturday. And, he ended up getting the assist, but he also seemed like the most dangerous guy out there.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely the strongest. Like we've seen it with an international when he's with Netherlands, just playing off that left wing instead of utilizing him as a striker. I feel like his abilities are kind of limited when he's playing the striker role compared to that left wing.
He definitely seems more natural coming down the left side.
But another player, dropping another 10 out of 10 performance for sure. Ryan Gravenberch. He's just on a whole nother
Oh yeah.
level this year.
Yeah. Slots really unlocked his full potential and he's looked really good. Even he struggled slightly when he first joined Liverpool. It might have just been Klopp kind of figuring out what his best 11 was going to be. And he rotated in the middle quite a bit, especially with Thiago. And then, well, Thiago ended up getting hurt, but um, even with Endo and Curtis Jones. But it looks like Arne Slot here has really found his solid 11. I know Curtis Jones played this weekend, but I mean, that's just kind of a rarity, just giving Szoboszlai a break.
Hmm. And I think there was a lot of question marks around if Gravenberch can really keep playing that defensive mid role against like the big teams. But I don't know. So far, I mean, he looked comfortable, uh, even defensive duties.
Yeah, I was kind of worried with him and McAllister together just because historically they haven't been they're more like the McAllister, he could play like the 10 type role, more like an 8 and same with Gravenberch, but they found like a nice balance between them for like one to kind of hold at times because even McAllister does a pretty good job defending and dropping deep.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this season for sure we're seeing the Ryan Gravenberch that was like labeled as the wonder kid from Ajax. It's really nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, I hate rooting for like these other teams that, Chelsea's ultimately competing against, but like there's so many guys on Liverpool that are just so likable, and I'm just a fan of a lot of these players.
I think the only like I guess loss for Liverpool this weekend would be losing out on Allison. I know Kelleher is a good like backup to have, but I think he was sick, so
Hmm.
he had some keeper make his debut. So I don't know how long. I haven't looked into how long Allison's out for, but if that's a long-term injury, that could be an issue. But that's really the only downside of Liverpool this weekend.
It has Allison stay getting hurt as a goalkeeper, like pulling muscle. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's him and Mike Mignon. They always just stay getting
They're
hurt.
always getting hurt. Um, and then the last shout out we need to give here is definitely to Konate and Van Dijk. Van Dijk, he's returning to his like player of the year type levels. Last year, I know you and I were debating about like, is he still the best defender? I know you're a fan of Van de Ven, but I think Van Dijk is just on another level, and I think people sometimes don't rate him because it's like he doesn't make things look difficult just because the way he's positioned and the way he moves is just he makes it look really easy, and he doesn't have to do anything crazy, so people kind of overlook that aspect of his game, just the way he's able to read the game.
Yeah, I think this year he's looking almost like the 2019 Virgil van Dijk, which is scary to see. And to your point, yeah, like that's one thing with Wan-Bissaka. Everyone says like his slide. last ditch slide tackles, best tackler in the game, but in a way also if you have to go in to make those sliding tackles, sometimes it's just your positioning was off, so that's why you kind of have to make those last ditch tackles. Whereas Van Dyke, he's just kind of solid all around.
Yeah, Van Dyke. I mean, he was number one in duels won last year, tackles won. So, and I don't think he rarely got dribbled past last year either. So, and he's looked in form in Konate as well. I mean, his
God
only
forbid he
cons
just stays fit. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say just if he can stay healthy, he's solid. Um,
They
and
might be
then
the best center back pairing when they're both fit. I know Gabriel and Saliba get the shouts, but I think Van Dijk and Konate are up there for the best.
yeah, I'm taking both of them.
Mhm.
And Van, I mean, for them to only concede 2 goals, that's insane. I know they haven't had the toughest competition yet, but they look kind of unpassable. And Van Dijk now he's found a consistent partner as well in Konate. He's been having to rotate with uh, Kwanzaa and Matip and uh, even Matt Phillips or whatever that Joker's name was. Like,
Yeah.
so now he's found a consistent partner,
Mhm.
and they look kind of unplayable right now.
Totally agreed.
And then if we want to flip to the other side, Palace, man, they've had a slow start to the season.
Yeah, they've had a stinker to start the year. Um, they're just not that excited. They bring some excitement, but yeah, they just had a stinker being third to last. I know Wolves, we've touched on them being last place, but that's not really a true reflection just based on the opponents they've played. But I feel like Palace, they've had more of a not easier run, but they've had teams, they've had matchups where they could have pulled away with points. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, they just haven't looked cohesive going forward. It doesn't seem like they have a flow to their game going forward, which is kind of worrying. And Eze's been a little disappointing. Of course, the one banger he scored this year is uh,
called
to
off.
tie against Chelsea. But aside from that goal, he's missed a lot of good chances. He had won this game, but again, he kind of shanked it.
I don't know if that's the reason why we know Elise got that big move, but I don't know if maybe that's why Eze didn't get the move. Big move is, I guess, teams still aren't fully sold if he has the killer instinct, but I would
Yeah,
think
hope.
with Elise's departure that Eze would solely carry this team, but they've been struggling.
Yeah, I think Palace defensively though they've looked decent, um, and they've only conceded 10 goals this year. But yeah, attack wise, some of these players just need to step up. Looking at Eze right now, I've been a little disappointed. So, and I'm a big fan of his, so I think he's got time to turn it around.
Yeah. And then Kamada, he's let me down. I thought he would really make an impact, but he's been very disappointing and even starting to drop to the bench now. So,
Yeah, and then if we move on to some other games on Saturday, we'll start with save the more exciting ones for later. First, we can start with Leicester's 1-0 win against Bournemouth. Um, and we had Buonanotte scoring
I
for
like
Leicester.
him as a player. That was a
Yeah,
good
he,
loan.
he's a good player for Leicester and Brighton. Like the way that they are able to recruit players is so impressive. And then develop them, like loan them out and develop them, and then bring them back to Brighton, kind of really become a star. It's really smart business the way they go about it.
Yeah, he's a very um I mean obviously at Brighton he wasn't really getting the playing time just because he was so young and had a lot of competition ahead, but he's a very technically gifted player that can kind of play across the midfield wherever you want him to. So I think he'll come in good hands for Brighton in the future. He's had a pretty good campaign for Leicester so far.
Yeah, Bournemouth though, yeah, they did lose, but I don't think it's all down bad for them. I think they were unlucky,
They
honestly,
should have
not
won
to.
this game.
Yeah, I think they should have grabbed some. I mean, they got unlucky hitting the post a couple times, a crossbar, but
They missed a lot of good chances.
yeah, I'm still fairly high on Bournemouth. They've also had somewhat of a slower start this year. They're mid-table, right above Manchester United. It's not good to be around that team, but uh, I still got hope for them. They've got some quality players up top, so goals are going to be coming.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that Evan Nielsen player, but
Yeah, same.
he just
He'll-
hasn't grabbed the goals yet. But I think once he starts getting the goals, he'll be a big player.
All right, so next we can move on to one of the more exciting games or before we jump, we can touch
We got
on
to
West
save that one
Ham.
for the last of
Yeah,
the
let's talk
Saturday.
about West Ham Ipswich. Um, that was another game on Saturday. West Ham ended up winning 4-1 against Ipswich. Antonio grabbing a very early goal, looking like Brentford scoring in the first minute. Um, Pretty comfortable win at the end of the day. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was when West Ham got that early goal, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a long game for Ipswich, just in the manner that they conceded. Um, just a really cheap giveaway by Calvin Phillips, put him right into pressure.
He had a stinker.
It was
He
so
looked bad.
bad. And then I think it was that second goal that West Ham scored. He just got absolutely cooked by Jared Bowen. Um, yeah, so Kellen Phillips, he just all in all had a poor game, but
He was the worst player on the pitch
yeah.
for sure.
Um, I mean Liam Delap grabbed another goal, which is nice to see, but all in all, I think West Ham finally got a much needed win, convincing win too. So
Hmm Lopetegui was going crazy on the sideline
I
during
think
that
he was
game.
going crazy because he
He,
knows he was safe from getting sacked.
yeah. We do need to give a shout out to Delap though. His goal was quality. Again, we're seeing glimpses of him, I think, where he can become a top striker in this league. That snapshot and turn, like he did it himself,
Mhm.
solo type goal. I mean, big body, but with some skills. It's
Very
looking like a
technically,
dangerous
yeah.
player. I didn't realize he was a
It was a good finish, but I thought the Areola could have stopped it. I'm not sure if it was the greatest of goalkeeping, but
it was a lot of pace behind that shot though.
yeah, he got that shot off quick.
Yeah, quick. So Ariola was not expecting it. But I didn't realize. So I was watching this dude a little more, just I've become a huge fan of him, and I didn't realize he was a City Academy product.
Hmm.
So it makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah, that's why I was
he's
so high on him when I saw that they had signed him. Just 'cause I knew he was coming from that City Academy.
this man's got ball knowledge.
No, because I know there were a lot of on social media talks, like a lot of City fans were kind of disappointed that they let him go.
hmm
Um, and so I guess he's proven them wrong.
I might need to re-download some Twitter.
You mean X?
X, yeah. But Ipswich, yep, they're in the towards the bottom, still out of relegation zone, but just barely with 4 points.
I will
Um,
say Ipswich championship when they were in the championship, obviously championship and Premier League is like a whole another level. Um,
mhm.
but it was really enjoyable in the championship how they would play out from the back, literally from keeper um back to front. But against West Ham, they were trying it a little bit and kind of shooting themselves in the foot, playing right to pressure.
Yeah, that third goal, I think it was the third goal, was caused just because they were trying to play out from the back.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of Karen McKenna, but I thought he'd be smarter than to keep reverting back to playing out the back. Um, so I think those are little tweaks that he might have to consider.
Yeah, and we do need to give Lopetega a shout out here, or Lopetegi for kind of changing his midfield trio finally and not being so defensive. Uh, he's got his guy. I mean, it seems like he's loves this guy Rodriguez. Um, I still think Suchek is like the undroppable guy in that midfield, but he had both of them in there solidified, but he finally had Paquetá in there as well. He would a little more attack. So I mean, West Ham's got the talent to do so. So hopefully he kind of learns from this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he exactly sees in that Guido Rodriguez guy. Because I thought Edson Alvarez might have done
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I thought. Um, but even when he made some of these subs, like he didn't go full defensive mode. So granted, it was against Ipswich, but and then your boy Mari Hutchinson, man, he's been looking a little stinky this year too.
Yeah, he's been very quiet, not making much impact at all.
No. So yeah, he's been a little disappointing, but so uh West Ham now they're two places above United, sitting at 12th, I believe. Um and then if you want to move on to the next game, I think we should talk about is Newcastle Everton. I think we can really just like glide through this one. I mean, there wasn't much happening.
Honestly, I thought it was kind of exciting, even though it was more the exciting 0-0 games.
I didn't think it was that exciting. I mean, yeah, there was that penalty and it was kind of fun to not fun, but it was entertaining to see when Gordon missed how much uh like the fans were kind of at him and like even like Everton players, just for how he kind of left the team.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad for Gordon. He looked super nervous when he took that PK. It was not the greatest of penalties either. Um,
No.
but yeah, I didn't realize I didn't realize Jordan Pickford, he came from like Newcastle's academy. It says a
Mm.
Newcastle former versus former Everton. Um, and then the Everton, like their social media team. This was, I felt like a little disrespectful as well. I heard it on, I think it was the SDS podcast where they were saying the Everton's uh like account, they put like a meme of Gordon taking the PK and had like they just memed it and was like uh
Damn. That is super disrespectful.
for real for like your own academy, like grown player.
No, and yeah, that's kind of weird for I kind of get how the Everton players were kind of laughing at him and mocking him in the game and stuff. Like I'm not really annoyed with that. Like I think that's part of the game, to try to get into players' heads and skin,
Yeah.
especially a player like Gordon. But for a social media account to do that, that's weird.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really need to get on Twitter. It seems like a lot's happening.
Did you
Uh,
think that Calvert-Lewin should have got the PK? Because I was looking, I don't know, they kept showing the replay of the tackle on him, and like the more and more I was watching it, it just
mhm.
looked like a PK.
Yeah, I think it could have gone either way. But definitely like in slower motion, it definitely did look like a penalty. But at the end of the day, I would have been disappointed if Everton won it like that, just because I didn't think if any team were to pull a point, it should have been Newcastle. But honestly, like neither team really looked great. Pickford looked good, but other than that, I didn't think either team really looked great.
Yeah, I was it was exciting when Decore got that goal and then it got called back. I was like, oh, Everton about to pick up 3 more points back to
Yeah.
back.
I would like to see Everton do well though, but they are playing better than they
Mhm.
started. Um, and I mean they should have more points at this stage, but they kind of blew some games.
And then it just sucks to see Jared Branthwaite on the just getting injured again. Just can't
Y-
stay fit.
Yeah. So now Everton's sitting at 16th place, um, with a couple points here now, and then Newcastle they're in seventh place with 12 points. So that's kind of where the standings are. So they're 2 points away from Chelsea, and 4 points ahead of y'all. So some time to go for y'all still. We'll touch on Sunday's game here soon, but
There's
next
a
we
lot of
can,
exciting Saturday Premier Leagues.
yeah, I think next we need to talk about um the Wolves Brentford game. So that was probably the most, for a neutral, the most entertaining game. Being 5-3, just a goal fest,
Pure chaos.
absolute chaos. But again, Brentford scoring. It was like to be exact, I think it was like a minute 46 seconds or something. So they didn't get it within 1 minute this time, but still super
Very
impressive.
close.
Yeah,
Did do you remember who got the kickoff? If it was Brentford or Wolves?
I think it was Brentford. I think. Again, I have a 50-50 shot.
It's
But I
just
remember
wild. It's
they,
just wild how early they score. Like, are they doing like statistics on like the coin toss on like being able to get the kickoff first of all each time and then
yeah, I have no idea. But it was hyped to see Damsgaard. This kid I've been high on for a couple of years here, but he's been getting some consistent starts, and he got that opening assist to Collins, that cross.
Mhm. He got two assists that game, right?
Yeah, he did.
That one and then the corner. I will say Wolves, they had a few like sloppy defending. Um, I think it was at Brentford, their third goal. It was just easy. Like the way they got in was so easy, just picking them apart. And then that fourth goal on the corner, like Ethan Pinnock, he's literally the biggest player on the field, and he was just left unmarked. Um, so you get like an easy goal there. So it's kind of Gary O'Neill. I'm sure he's frustrated because they were down, equalize, down again, equalize, try to make a game of it. But
Yeah, Gilman was definitely a big loss for them. But another issue I think they have that boils down to why they're conceding so many goals is that midfield. I'm not a huge fan of that midfield at all. So the three that have been starting consistently together, Lamina, uh, Joe Gomez, and Andre. Um, I'm not a fan of the three of them starting together, and I think it's causing a lot of these goals to be conceded because just the way they play, they kind of have like the same type of play style. They're none of them are very like defensive first minded. Lamina a little more, but I just don't feel like they should be playing together at the same time.
yeah, Gary O'Neill's been using him as like the defensive role, but he's more of he'll just keep you that possession, kind of
Hmm.
build out the play, but he's not really known for actually defending.
No.
Then yeah, Lamina and Joe Gomez, they kind of have a similar profile.
Yeah, so I think it's been causing that a little, like Gary O'Neill needs to find some type of like a more defensive minded player there in the middle. Um, because they all kind of have like the same exact style, and
Mhm.
like you need to find some balance in there. But yeah, I think Kilman's a big loss, but the midfield's a big issue too.
And then as much as I praise Ryan Nori, I think
Hmm.
going forward he's really good, but sometimes he can just have a little drop in focus defensively.
Yeah, especially you have to be in his kind of situation with Cunha playing ahead of him. You have to be a little more disciplined because Cunha doesn't. really track back and help. I mean, he shouldn't have to just because he is like, one of your best attacking players.
For sure.
Um, he does have some responsibility to track back, but that's not his main focus. So
Mhm.
it it doesn't really fit his style either because Nori definitely loves to go forward.
I've been surprised that Wang just not getting that playing time this year though, as much as like last season. Because he was playing looking pretty decent last year. So I'm surprised he hasn't really gotten a start.
Yeah, he had a strong start to his career in the Premier League, but after his injury, he's kind of fallen off.
Hmm.
Um, and then Brentford, I think Thomas Frank is going to do well with them. You had them kind of towards the bottom of the table, right, for your predictions,
Yeah, I think I had him like 15.
15th. But yeah, again, Wolves, they're sitting dead last with just 1 point. They've had some close games, but again, they're 1 point coming on that tie against Nottingham.
This was the
Um,
first game where they really could have. They've had a really tough start to the year, and then this was the first game where they could have pulled a point. So big one to lose.
yeah, and to that point, their upcoming games are a little tricky. So they'll have to play City at home, and then they have to go to the Amex to play the Seagulls, aka Brighton. So that's gonna be a tricky game, and then they host Palace after that. So Palace, they're gonna figure it out, I think. They have a solid manager, but then after that they have some games that they should be able to compete in for sure. So Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton. So they've got a run of games there where they need to collect some points. So the two other games in the Premier League on Saturday were some of the potential title contenders. So we can start with the Arsenal Southampton game. Arsenal ended up winning 3-1. They actually ended up coming back. They were losing uh, thanks to a Cameron Archer goal. Beautiful finish. Um, and Arsenal, they didn't panic and they came back. Havertz equalizing, nice finish, and then Arsenal grabbing two more to kind of seal the game.
Yeah, that was a nice finish by Cameron Archer. I think that was a
Hmm.
nice ball forward also by that Fernandez kid.
Oh yeah, nice
Um,
pass.
that was a I wouldn't say it was a foul on Raheem Sterling, but just Raheem Sterling losing the ball where you really shouldn't be. Dangerous area to give it up. But yeah, I
Especially
think
with Arsenal, kind of all their players moving forward too.
yeah, exactly. They were just caught out.
Hmm.
But I think once they conceded, it was yeah, like you said, no panic, and they just cruised. Um, I think Bukayo Saka is having a really good season so far. 2 goals and an assist. Um, and then Havertz just I know we keep saying Arsenal need to upgrade, but as of now, he's still just getting the job done. And Martinelli finally getting a goal.
Another one, yeah. Saka only had one goal, two assists, but I know what you mean.
Oh,
Um,
that's a 2 goals.
yeah,
Uh,
just brain freeze. Um, but yeah, I thought Havertz's goal, he took it nicely, but again, Southampton just caused their own problems there. Like Phil Downs, like, what are you doing, dude? Like their center back gave him a pretty nice ball. He had space to run and he just tried to play his teammate to do this cute little pass and just pissed me off. Like, dude, just play safe. Like, what are you trying to do? Like he was playing too cute as a captain too. Would have benched him right there. But I think once Arsenal got that equalizer, you just kind of knew at the Emirates that they weren't going to concede another one. Um,
yeah, it was pretty comfortable. It was one of the lesser enjoyable games of Saturday,
I
just
think so,
because it
yeah.
was quite one-sided.
Yeah. Arteta was trying some weird things there, playing Thomas Partey out right back. Maybe he was just trying to fit in uh Jesus and Havertz in there at the same time. So
I think their other options were injured though, right? Like Timber, Ben White, and Tomiyasu were all hurt.
yeah, but they still had because that one um guy that kind of comes in as a left back, he's played at the right before.
That Lewis Skelly or
No, not Lewis Skelly, but yeah, that's a good shot too. He's younger, but I mean, Tomiyasu ended up coming in. I don't. I guess maybe he wasn't fully healthy, but he had Tomiyasu. He came in. What's his name? I'm blanking. Kiwor.
Kiwior, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a solid kind of substitute to come in and could have started the game, him or Tomiyasu. So I don't know. I think it was kind of Arteta taking a page out of Pep's book and trying to be a little too fancy. I don't know what he was doing. So,
There was there's one player for Southampton who I haven't seen this year, who regardless, I don't think he's gonna be like the difference maker if
mhm,
Southampton stays up because they're getting relegated. Sorry, Southampton fans. Um, but one player who was like crucial for them for their promotion was Will Smallbone.
mhm.
Um, I don't know where he's been this year, but I like him like as a better option than like Flynn Downs
Yeah, I am not a fan of Phil Downs. Yeah, Smallbone is a big loss. He's been injured, I think, with like a hamstring injury. He's still on the team, but he should be back anytime soon. I know he was supposed to miss the first few months of the season, so hopefully he'll come
Yeah.
in. But yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge fan of Phil Downs. I am kind of liking what I see out of Fernandez there in the middle,
Mhm.
young player.
I know
Um,
West Ham fans used to like rave about that Flynn Downs kid. I'm like, I don't know what you guys see in him
yeah, um, a little overhyped there,
for sure. And
but
being the captain too, it's crazy.
it'll be interesting to see if Arteta, kind of reverts to like a traditional type of back four players. Party looked a little lost out there, so I'm a huge fan of that dibbling dude out wide. So if he was matched up with Party, it would have been easy dinner eatings for him.
Hmm.
Um, Very comfortable, and then it was cool to see Ramsdale back. Honestly, he had a few great saves, and the really ironic thing is, I think he's better than Raya in all perspectives except corner kicks was always kind of his weakness. Like he wouldn't come out too strong, and then also from his feet, he wasn't the best at times. But shot stopping has always been elite and better than Raya. But it was ironic this game against Arsenal that he literally came out and claimed every single corner kicker and like punched it out.
Yeah, he was commanding.
He was
Um,
super commanding.
I don't know if it had to do with he might have known like their set piece routine, but
That's true, yeah. It was funny to kind of see him emotional at the end, just
I
with
didn't
all the
see
art.
he started crying,
Uh, I think
tearing up.
so. Yeah, he was like, Arsenal fans were singing his name, and uh, you could tell he was getting a little emotional.
Oh geez.
Yeah, it will make a grown man cry. Get your throat start hurting. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was good to see him back in the Emirates, and I thought he played well, even though they were at a loss, or they ended up losing. Um,
Even the big losses that Southampton's taken, he still made like really good saves throughout the game.
yeah, again, that's just how he like. He's a good shot stopper, I think. Um, I think he was still done a little dirty at Arsenal, but that's just a different conversation.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, Jesus, this was his chance to kind of maybe revive his time at Arsenal, but he was pretty silent.
Yeah, he didn't make much impact. It's looking
No.
like the move City made to get rid of him and Zinchenko to Arsenal just was a smart move by City. Just collect the money and I
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like City finessed with both him and Zinchenko, I guess.
mhm.
Um, and then we can move on to the last Premier League game from Saturday. So this one was Fulham versus City. Kind of similar situation in terms of um, Fulham being the first team to score here against the favorites. So uh, Pereira scored that opener. Probably one
Crazy,
of the best best assists you'll ever see. If you haven't seen that goal, go look it up.
insane
Him,
assist.
Raul Jimenez, just amazing assist. Kind of that was like an instinctive type of play, that
He didn't even look.
no,
Just
he just kind of once you like. That's kind of when people talk about being in like a flow state and like once you become like an expert in something, like it just comes natural. And that's exactly what happened with him and as it felt like. And it was just like absolutely beautiful to see.
it's crazy because the next day Sports Center top 10 that was only number like I think that was number 5 or 6 in top 10 plays. I'm like, oh, no respect. It was
That's wild.
ridiculous.
That's wild. You still keep up with Sports Center, Sports Center, and Twitter. Wow.
I just keep up with
Uh,
Sports Center for the top 10 plays. Those never get old.
um, but yeah, City ended up coming back. Kovacic had a somewhat of a lucky goal deflection. But again, they were putting the pressure on Fulham.
His second goal was nice though.
Yeah, the second one was a nice goal. And then Daku ended up coming in and finishing it up. It was 3-1 and then uh Muniz scored in the 88th minute.
Hopefully a
So
confidence boost for him.
yeah, 3-2. I mean, Raul Jimenez looked really good this year though.
Hmm. One player that I think Fulham could have pulled away with the win, but City, I think, have to thank Ederson as well as Adama Traore. That man had so many chances to score. Um, I don't know who's like final products worse, him or Timo Werner. Um, but that man just so many one-on-one chances, just couldn't put it to bed.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that because they're almost the same type of player. Like
Always
they're
dangerous.
so
Like
dangerous, but until they're dangerous because they can get close to your goal, but then once they're in front of your goal, it's just over. Like they don't know what they're doing.
I don't know if their brain just like they have a brain fart or I don't know what happens. Literally, it's their final product is just always lets the team down.
It's a funny comparison because I feel like they're very similar players. Um, but honestly, I thought Fulham was a little unlucky. Yeah, to your point, Ederson made some amazing saves, didn't get enough credit, but Fulham had honestly the better chances.
I also
They should
think,
have. I think they should have won, to be
yeah,
honest.
they definitely had a lot of chances. I think just losing out on Rodri. Um,
Hmm.
I'm a huge fan of Kovacic, but like playing defensive mid role, that's just not him. He's a ball carrier. Like
Hmm.
I feel like you're kind of limiting yourself by limiting Kovacic's like full strengths on carrying the ball.
Limiting, limiting yourself by limiting.
You know what I mean though,
Yeah.
like you're not using Kovacic's full potential and
No.
then you're kind of putting yourself at a bit of a risk playing someone that's not really experienced in that role. Um, so
Yeah,
I think
Rico Lewis is kind of getting exposed out there too this past weekend um as a right back and I know he typically likes to invert. I don't know what his best position is, but I mean he wasn't looking too good out there. Um
he's
and
a very
honest
technically gifted player too, where he can just,
hmm
I think he could play like that Rodri role if he
y
wanted
y
to.
yeah, I agree. I don't think he's great out wide as a defender and he should come into the middle, but I don't know. I guess Pep just likes him out there.
Because I still, as much as Kyle Walker's aging, I still think he gives you that security blanket. Like with Tottenham, you got Van de Ven. Like if you need that one person with the legs to kind of save you,
Hmm.
I think like Kyle Walker gives you that. So I think he could still play out there, and kind of move Rico Lewis to that Rodri role for the time being.
I agree. I think Walker gives you a much more defensive stability. Rico Lewis is definitely a liability who's getting cooked this weekend, but um, I think Pep, his thinking is he likes to play this inverted type wing back. So Kyle Walker is not going to be that player to do so. So I assume he's just kind of weighing his pros and cons, and he sees more pros with having an inverted Rico Lewis than cons
Mhm.
of his liability. But one player that we need to talk about is Gundogan. He's had back-to-back just not good performances.
Stinkers.
Some bad
Him
games.
and
And
Bernardo Silva, I don't think he's been up to par this year.
yeah, I'm not a fan of I like Bernardo Silva when he plays like kind of in the middle or like where he can kind of float around wherever he wants on the field, but
I don't
out
like him.
wide,
Yeah.
yeah, he was yeah. And Holland again was not he was quiet. He was getting I guess Fulham had a game plan for him though, like they went with essentially like a back five. But Anderson, he locked him up in his back pocket. Him and what's the other defender name?
Calvin Bassey.
Bassey, yeah. I
Mhm.
thought the two of them handled Holland easily.
I think Joachim Anderson might be like one of the most important signings for Fulham. He's been really solid for him because Calvin Bassey can be shaky at times, but with Anderson, he's kind of covered Bassey a bit as well.
Yeah, I agree. Both are very strong defenders, so they matched up well with Holland. So back to back kind of quiet games for Holland there. I agree though. Bernardo Silva, I would like to see Savinho or Daku come in or like start out wide over Bernardo Silva, but
For sure. I think Savio has to start. He can he can cook from either side.
and then I'm just curious where like Foden's been this year too.
Yeah, I
He
don't
he
know.
he wasn't on the bench this game. He made a substitution appearance last game, I believe, but again, we've seen very limited glimpses of him this year, and he was the best player last year for City.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened to him this season. Uh, it's like, yeah, I'm not sure. Pep just doing Pep things, overcomplicating.
Yeah, we needed some inside sources. Narv, you
He-
need to check your Twitter feed.
Foden did get the start this weekend though. Um, but then he didn't get to play the full
Well,
90.
yeah, so I don't know what's up because I didn't think he was hurt. So
Mm-mm.
um, and then so those were all the Premier League games from Saturday, and so we had the top teams playing, and by then. So at the end of the day, Saturday, we had Liverpool at the top of the league with only one loss this year and six wins, and they have 18 points. And then we have City and Arsenal with 17 points, both with two draws and zero losses. Same goal differential. City's scored 17 and conceded eight, though, whereas Arsenal's only scored 15. And then if we move on to Sunday, we can start with we had two games at the 9 o'clock window or 9:30 window. That was Chelsea, Nottingham, and Villa, Manchester United. Thank God there were two games because one would have put me to sleep for sure. Um, uh, so I think we should probably touch on that game first. So United, Villa.
Yeah, you said it best. I mean, if you guys are having sleeping issues, sleeping trouble, listeners, just watch the replay. It'll put you to sleep. That's pretty much all I can say. That game was a snooze fest. I mean, quality was just poor from both teams,
Hmm.
surprisingly.
Yeah, this wasn't just United.
Yeah,
This was
this was
also
both.
Villa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to give just slight credit, I think we were quite we solidified defensively the way we were pressing. I think there's only like two instances where there's a kind of a hole we left, but other than that, we were pretty solid defensively. But then again, we just kind of looked out with Villa just having one of those very off days. Literally no one could create. When they did create, the final product was just beyond poor from Villa. Um, I think the one player I've been slightly disappointed in with for United this year, um, a little bit has been Bruno. I think just previous years we've relied so heavily on him, and this year, again, we're trying to rely heavily on him, but he's just not producing. He had a lot of giveaways versus Villa. I think in the span, there was one point in the first half, in the span of like 5 minutes, he gave the ball up like three times,
Hmm.
giving Villa like a breakaway. So all in all, it's just a really, really poor quality game. Um,
He also doesn't have much to work with.
yeah, that's a fair point. He just,
He's got
just
a track star playing up top. Hoyland. That's all he does. I
he's coming back from injury. I'll give him some slack. Um, so I'm glad I had the Chelsea game on the side because that game just was pure chaotic.
Yeah, you know what really puzzled me was when Anthony came on. It didn't make sense. Why not bring Ahmad again? Ahmad, like
Yeah,
he's clearly your best attacking threat. And again, you leave him on the bench, and then you bring on Anthony, and then you bring on Casemiro too, and it's just you could tell Ten Hag wasn't going for the win.
yeah, he was playing it safe, and I
Hmm.
because Rashford surprisingly, I'll give him credit. He had a few dangerous moments off that left side, but then Garnacho, Garnacho was silent, and so I thought put keep Rashford sub Garnacho for Diallo, but then taking out one of our only one of our only attackers that was trying to create stuff, taking him out and then putting Garnacho in, who just had a very bad game. Um, so
Shout
I
out,
mean,
shout out to Onana though. He's quietly been, I think, the best player for y'all this year.
yeah, um, yeah, he's really coming to his showing what why we bought him from Inter. Um, and
He had
then
one or two crazy like good saves this past weekend against Villa.
yeah, and I'll say shout out Johnny Evans, man of the match.
Yeah, got to.
This man, he should be retired. Like he was literally just came to United just to stay fit and hoping a team would pick him up. We ended up just signing him because Ten Hag liked him for like leadership capabilities and like he had to get thrown in the deep end actually playing games and like he was playing well. Um,
You know what the crazier thing is?
mm-mm.
That's Ten Hag's best signing.
Probably uh he won man of the match and then
Dude, I feel so bad for this man. Like, every
he is
time he
suffering.
plays,
He is
he
suffering.
he's dying out there on the field. Like his hamstrings are gone.
Yeah. And then I completely forgot we even had Lindelof this year. Had to come on for Mazraoui, who I think picked up a knock, but he came in. I was a little worried when he came on. I was like, oh, might concede
Mm.
here, but him and Dillit did their job coming in. So at the end of the day, snooze fest, but I'll take a point.
Y'all lucked out here. I think with
Yeah,
just
Villa missing out McGinn as well. Noah Nana.
yeah, Noah Nana and also Villa just looked flat, and I think it just I mean, they had this massive win against Bayern that, like, is historic for them because they haven't been in the Champions League so long and playing this huge team and getting a win. I think coming back to reality, and they're like, ah, we got to play Manchester. It's just kind of like they were, so they just didn't look like they wanted to
It
play.
was a sluggish performance from them.
So yeah, both keepers though, when they were called upon, they did well. So Villa sitting at fifth place with 14 points, um, and Manchester at 14th point, 14th place. 14 points would be insane, with 8 points. Sorry. Um, but yeah, hopefully,
It is
I don't.
our it is our record for worst Premier League start in history. So
Yeah, out of 21 possible points, just eight. That's not looking good.
only hope I have is I know Sir Alex, he had crazy, terrible, terrible start to his managerial career at United. We all know how that turned out. So
I know the top dogs at United were, having a meeting, and there was speculation that, oh, is Ten Hag going to be gone after this meeting?
mhm.
Is he going to get sacked? But he ended up not getting sacked. But they had a meeting for 6 hours, and I said, what did they talk about for 6 hours? Golly.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
long meeting. I don't know what. Yeah.
what the hell could they be talking about? It's probably one party saying we need to sell Rashford, and the other party, and they probably did that for each player. So they debated each player for
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they
45
did,
minutes.
honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh, yeah, they do that for each player for 45 minutes. That's 6 hours
there's
right there.
still some players we got to clear out. Um, so, but I'll let
Yeah,
you go
it's
to your Chelsea. I mean, this was a chaotic game.
yeah, so right above Villa is Chelsea at fourth place. Same number of points, 14. We have a better goal differential. We've scored 16 this year, which is the second most right after City. Um, but yeah, I think this was a game where we honestly got somewhat lucky at the very end. Robert Sanchez, he saved us. He was looking amazing at the end.
Mr. Lightskin.
Mr. Lightskin, thank goodness he had a good game. Madueke ended up getting the goal. So we'll start first with Nottingham. They uh, got a goal second half, right when the second half started. Who was it? Uh, who scored?
Chris Wood.
Chris Wood. Yeah, that's right. Chris Wood scored early into the second half.
Sorry, real quick on
And
Chris Wood, you know he's always had a 10 goal season
I did not know that. That's
or a
pretty
10 plus
impressive.
goal season.
That's pretty impressive. And he's already at four this year.
Hmm.
Well, I think he's gonna hit the 10 again. Um, yeah, that goal, I remember it clearly now. Thanks for rejogging my memory. We'll get to this later a little more, but Enzo just bad foul, or bad giveaway. Uh, and then Ward-Prowse ends up getting fouled. They get just a knockdown goal there. Madueke ended up equalizing for us. But I think we had a ton of chances. You look at the advanced analytics, we blew Nottingham out of the waters. Expected goals of 2.5. Poor finishing, but no, I take that back. It was not poor finishing. I think Sells had an amazing game. The Nottingham
I was gonna
keeper,
say he made some wild saves
he was on something. He was looking like freaking prime Casillas
because
this
he had
past
that
weekend.
little scare of an injury, looking like he was knocked out, and I was like, "Is he sleeping?" And then he woke up from the dead, and just went off.
Yeah, he went crazy. That double save on Palmer, man,
That
that
was ridiculous.
was that was a ridiculous save.
Palmer like couldn't. He just had a smile at it because he was like, "Yeah, this is crazy."
That touch by Palmer was so nice.
Yeah, that was nasty.
So nice.
He
Um,
fully meant it too.
yeah. The one thing that's been annoying me, I've been telling you, is Madueke. This is gonna be an unpopular opinion, but I've been telling you like how Madueke just like does a little too much. He he just needs to like cross it a little earlier, just like he just plays around too much and gets in dangerous positions, and then always ends up like kicking it out for a goal kick or something. And
I think he's a bit selfish at times.
yeah, I think he is a little selfish. I mean, you you remember of course you remember the Everton scuffle where our players were arguing about the penalty.
Wasn't that between Palmer and Jackson though?
No, it was Jackson Madueke,
Oh, okay.
and then Gallagher came in and was like, idiots, it's Cole Palmer's.
Hmm.
He's a PK taker, but like you could tell like Madueke is just he's yeah, I think you said it perfectly. He does seem a little selfish and just
Very
he needs to
talented,
be
but
yeah, it's just like a little frustrating because he's got a lot of talent, but his decision making combined with his selfishness just it's really annoying me right now. Um, and I think he's held us back a little on the attack. Um, I also think this is a game where Enzo Maresca should have made a couple changes earlier, one being Madueke. Um, and another is Nicholas Jackson. I thought he was a little quieter. Um, not one of his best games, but again, I think Nkunku could have been a player that really changed things because he's very technically gifted. Um, a little more than Nicholas Jackson. And I think this is a game where he could have maybe created a bit of magic.
did he
He
come
did
on
have a,
late,
yeah, he
I
came on
guess?
later.
Okay.
And Mudryk, I don't know if you remember that one where he had like a 70-yard sprint down the touchline with the ball, insane
That was
dribbling.
wild, yeah. He looked like
Um,
he was on like it was like fast forwarded
oh yeah, he looked on crazy speed, and then just a cross on a platter to Nkunku, and he just
save.
missed a sitter. Yeah, well, it was a good save, but um, and another player that's been annoying me is Enzo. Man, I mean, I didn't watch the World Cup this the last World Cup in Qatar for a few reasons, but I know that's when he started becoming a big name and people were talking about him. I don't get why we paid what 100 million for. I can see it for Caicedo, Caicedo's
He's undroppable at the
he's
moment.
solid. He's a good player. And Enzo, I just don't see it. Like he- people were hyping him up and I saw clips of him at Benfica, but he just hasn't looked good at Chelsea. And even the goal that we conceded was solely due, okay, not solely because we could have defended the free kick a little better, but it started because Enzo cheaply gave the
Yeah.
ball away. Um,
I think the world like Benfica, there were glimpses where people
mhm.
that's when people were talking about Enzo, but then I think that World Cup, that's when his stocks really rose because to be fair, he did have a good World Cup, but then again, you can't solely
I,
base it off like a 7 game
yeah,
tournament. We've seen so many people that just rise to the occasion in World Cups, but then obviously club level when you gotta do it week in, week out, they just aren't there. So
I hate the World Cup and Euro hype, man. Of these players, like I thought Cody Gapko was going to be like a perfect example of that. I think there's a player in there, but yeah, Enzo, I don't see it. And so I think when Lavia, is fully healthy and comes back, I th I think Maresca might prefer Lavia over Enzo.
mhm.
Um, I think that's something to keep an eye on. And then one more thing is Levi Colwill, man. I said it. I haven't seen a defender like this in our shirt. Okay, Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva is like one of the
Class.
he's
Yeah.
class, but a true Chelsea player out and out. I haven't seen anyone since John Terry until I've seen Levi Colwill right now, and it gives me just like goosebumps, like thinking about him. Um, pause. Just like what I mean. Just like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
could see him being like a Chelsea legend, dude. So, just get goosebumps about it. So, could see him being the future captain of this club.
His ball playing is crazy. I would as you mentioned defenders though, uh I think big shout out to Nottingham for signing Milinkovic. Um I think he was a really good signing for him and I think they got him for kind of cheap, but him and
Yeah, super cheap.
Murillo him and Murillo just been a great duo. And I didn't realize Nottingham, they're tied for second for like best defense right now, only conceding 6 goals. Um,
Oh wow.
so they've been a really good pairing that have kind of like clicked uh pretty quickly.
Yeah, even the goal that we conceded, for some reason, we had Malo Gusto on Linkovic, and I mean
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
we have some solid players that we could have put on it. Like,
That's such a
I,
mismatch.
what he's probably the most threatening guy after Chris Wood. For him not to be marked and then he gets a nod, like it's just that was a little frustrating. But yeah, to your point, I think that transfer from Fiorentina was only 15 million, so it's looking like
Very
a really
cheap.
good deal for
Yeah.
Nottingham. Um,
That what was Ward-Prowse's first yellow? I missed that one. Was it just like a cynical challenge? Like a
yeah, he like stopped the counter or something,
okay,
I
because that the
believe.
second yellow is really it was unfortunate, but it was really funny.
Yeah, it would have probably led to a goal, so he had to.
Because
Um,
at first, like in the uh real time, it looked like Ward-Prowse got fouled, but then like when you saw the replay, it's like oh, fail.
and the last Premier League game we can touch on is the Tottenham Brighton game. Um, so Tottenham started out real hot first half, and we kind of touched on this in the beginning of the episode, especially Brennan Johnson grabbing that goal pretty early on, and then uh, James Maddison getting us a second in the first half, and then Brighton kind of came out in the second half, um, and Menta scored pretty early on, 5 minutes in, and the crowd was really behind them, and then they got another goal 10 minutes later, and then Danny Welbeck, he's kept on scoring another goal, another 10 minutes later, and Brighton looked pretty dominant that second half.
Yeah, Tottenham were in a crazy fast start. Like it was 15 seconds into the game. Again, Timo Werner, we kind of touched on his final product. Easiest of crosses. He messes it up.
Hmm.
So they could have got an early goal, but Brennan Johnson, form of his life right now, gets another goal. And it was one of those where uh you never want to count Brighton out just because they do have a lot of talent. But it's looking like it's gonna go just Tottenham's way. Because that first half, I think Tottenham were the better team.
Yeah, they dominated the first half.
I think, yeah, I think Tottenham they dominated. Just some of their final product wasn't the best.
Yeah, Ange though, he kind of plays like Klopp where you're up 2-0. You need to have some type of control in the game and calm it down a little and not go he was going full out attack still, and I'm like,
No
dude,
discipline.
you're
Yeah.
up 2-0. Like, what are you doing? Like, I think Klopp was a little better about it, but Klopp was still like always pushing for another goal no matter what, and it cost him a few times. Arne Slot is the complete opposite. You know, he's able to control the game. You
Hmm.
know, whereas Ange, like I don't get what he's doing, and I mean 2-0 is one of the most dangerous scores in the game.
Yeah. And conceding so early in that second half,
Yeah.
you just knew that Brighton were going to make a game out of it. And it was a really that first goal Brighton got early in the second half was kind of a cheap goal to give away. In terms of defending Van de Ven, he looked like he slipped when trying to clear it, so he didn't make contact. And then Destiny Udogie just messed up defensively, so it was an easy goal for Brighton. And then after that, it was just all momentum for Brighton.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the worst games Udogie's played in a Tottenham uniform.
Mhm.
Very unlike him. Menta, took advantage of that this Sunday.
I think one player that's also having a really quiet, like a sneaky good season so far is Matoma. I
Hmm.
think he's looked really dangerous.
Especially with we talked about it in the beginning, Estupinian. The two of them
Yes.
link up really well together.
Yep. I don't think he's getting the flowers he necessarily deserves, but he's having a very good year, and going about his business.
Yeah. I mean, Brighton, I like their squad. Lewis Dunk is a solid defender there. Adam Webster, I think he got hurt pretty early on. I'm not a huge fan of his, but
Mm-mm.
I like Dunk at the back. I'm a fan of that Baliba kid in the middle.
Yeah.
He's quality. Him and Hinchelwoods look good this year. Danny Welbeck's found form, Matoma. So, I mean, it's pretty good squad
I
that
liked
Brighton's got.
I wasn't a fan of Hinchelwood when he was playing at the back, but I liked it when he got shifted to the midfield.
It's crazy to consider he's still a 19.
Hmm.
And then for Tottenham, one player that has been frustrating me is um, Benton Core in the middle, especially in the holding position. It's got to be Busuma. Benton Core is just not strong enough. I forget which goal it was, but as a holding mid, he was clearly at fault not tracking back. And then, like, he had a couple moments where he could have gotten his foot in and made a tackle, but that's just not the type of player he
Yeah.
is. I think Basuma would have prevented that goal. I think it was the first one. Um, so I don't know. I think Basuma's the best player in that spot, and maybe having Benton Core instead of Kulusevski or rotate them out. But that was a issue that I think Ange didn't see that most people saw
Yeah,
because he
Basuma
Benton Core
brings a
can
physical presence.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Spurs, they're sitting currently at ninth place with 10 points. Defensively, it's been an issue somewhat, but going forward, I mean they've scored 14 goals.
G
And
Going forward as well, though, they just don't have the killer, like they just don't
mhm,
put away their chances. Um, I
yeah,
think when Sun gets back, it'll help out a bit more, but
especially with the chances Timo Werner's gotten, Son would have bagged those away.
Mhm.
Brighton, they're sitting at sixth place with 12 points. Again, defensively, they've conceded 10 goals, which is one of the higher amounts on among those in the top 10. Um, just it's wild the type of high line they play. I
They
know
play
Spurs
risky. Yeah.
Spurs play a high line, but Brighton when they defined a high line as like a complete it's a ultra high line. I don't think anyone's played like that before. Um, so they've
Hopefully
conceded
Van
10.
Hecky comes back soon enough. Um, that Adam
Mhm.
Webster and Lewis Dunk, I'm just not a fan of. Even though Igor looked pretty good when he came on.
Igor is a big dude. But
He
yeah,
looked ginormous.
Dude, Van Ecke, yeah, he's a good pairing with Lewis Dunk, the two of them together.
Mhm.
Um, so that was kind of the Premier League roundup this weekend. If we move into La Liga, I think the first game we can touch on is the Real Madrid Villarreal and kind of get your thoughts on that game.
I think this game was just honestly the Vinny show. This man just put on a show for the fans. And it was funny because that second half when Mbappe got subbed out, uh, they moved Vinny like to the striker role, and then I know in the Champions League midweek he was a bit lost, but then like this game he just scores a belter, like
Yeah, he scored a bit.
wild.
I thought he was still looking a little lost though in the
Mhm.
middle. Don't think it's his optimal position still, even though did score that banger.
Mhm.
I didn't think he was. That's his optimal position still. He ended
Yeah.
up, I mean, coming from the left a lot still, kind of crowding the left.
Yeah, he was completely just destroying that right back for Villarreal
Hmm.
the entire game. I'm surprised that right back was even staying on. He should have been sent off. Like the amount of times he was fouling Vinny, already on a yellow. I was surprised he wasn't sent off.
But honestly, I feel like Real Madrid got a little lucky though. Again,
They looked a little flat with with Mbappe on there. So
Yeah, Villarreal had their chances too going forward that they didn't capitalize on. And I mean, their expected goals was 1.2 compared to Real's 0.45. I mean, it really took a Vinny miracle
Mhm.
to kind of seal the game for them. Um,
Because even Valverde's goal was a bit lucky, just deflection and
Deflection, yeah. So I think Real got lucky. They still have a ton to figure out, I think.
yeah.
Um, and then the game on Sunday was Atletico. They started out hot this year. This game too, so they tied 1-1 against Real Sociedad, but Alvarez started one the first goal and then um Suchik scored for Real Sociedad kind of in the closing minutes, but it may seem to the naked eye that, oh wow, Real Sociedad kind of got lucky, got a goal at the last minute, but they dominated Atletico this game.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game too much. But I did see that Real Sociedad goal. That was a quality finish.
Yeah, Kubo was kind of cooking on the right side, and it might be just Lanley like isn't too comfortable being dragged out wide, so he was getting cooked. Um, but Atletico's goal, man, Griezmann, super underrated player in my opinion. That his assist to Alvarez was nasty. I mean, if Raúl Jimenez didn't get that assist, Griezmann would have had the assist of the weekend.
That was another like instinctive, just
Yeah,
kind
back
of
heel.
knowing. Yeah.
I think those were the two big games wanted to touch on from this weekend. Um, did you want to move into any German games or Serie A games?
Yeah, there was one German game. Just a shocking result was Leverkusen versus Kiel.
Hmm.
Kiel was like a just newly promoted team. And Leverkusen were winning 2-0, blew that lead away. Um, which is very surprising. So that was just a shocker. But another game I wanted to touch on Saturday for La Liga
Oh,
was
real quick with Leverkusen too is Boniface. He scored another goal. And he's been having a hot start to the season in terms of scoring and getting some assists too. He's looked
he's
good this year.
he's looked like a top striker. I think a lot of teams are going to be after him for sure.
Yeah, he was a little underappreciated last year. I mean, he still did tally up um double digit goals last year for Leverkusen, but I felt like he was kind of the shadow for the
Hmm.
team. But this year, he's definitely looked like the most
Yeah,
dangerous player,
yeah, I think so.
other than like Frimpong for
Mhm.
sure.
And then I think one more game from Saturday was from the Serie A was Atalanta versus Genoa.
Hmm.
Um, Matteo Retegui, he's been a pretty good transfer for Atalanta. He's, I think, got 8 goals in 7 games now. But three of them did come in this game. And it was pretty funny just because Genoa is like the team that sold him this year to Atalanta. So just coming
Hmm.
back. Um, but one player that I think is a bit underrated at Atalanta is this Ederson midfielder. He was looking really good versus Arsenal. So I try to keep an eye out for him, and he was pretty impressive again. So he's a player that's kind of like on my radar to watch
Yeah,
throughout
he
the year.
grabbed a goal too this weekend.
Hmm.
Another Serie A game that weekend or on Saturday was the Inter game. Uh, Marcus Thuram, he got a hat trick as well. Um, He's also a player that I think's got a lot of goals in him, but he's blown a lot of chances this year too. But he capitalized this weekend, although he did kind of leave with an injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. I assume he won't be playing for France, in the Nations League.
That can only mean that your boy from Chelsea and Cuckoo.
Yeah, he got called up. And then also on Friday, I thought a good game was Napoli. Uh, Lukaku had a couple amazing assists against Como. Um, he also scored a penalty, but um, Napoli's looked solid. And I mean, Como's not Como, yeah, they're a promoted team, back-to-back promotions, and one of the small team expected to fall off. But I thought this was a team that would stay up. They've got some quality players with experience, and they've been on a pretty good form.
Mhm.
And Napoli looked comfortable.
Yeah, it's sad to see Scott McTominay get on the score sheet. Um, Seems like Napoli fans like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm waiting for his chant or his song, so we'll have to share it with this podcast.
Yeah, Napoli, they've kind of proven me wrong. They've looked quite scary this year.
Hmm.
I think Conte's just got them figured out. I think getting rid of Osimhen just cleared a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have to touch on the Fiorentina Milan game.
The comeback of
We
David De Gea.
Huge shout out to De Gea. I mean, man of the match,
Cra
maybe the best performance this weekend.
I don't know if it's the Man United curse, but man, that Europa League final 0 for 11 shot stopping. This game 2 for 2 in PKs. And they were both
And
quality saves.
yeah, even outside the penalties though, he made some
Yeah.
amazing saves, like one-on-one with some players. Um, so I'm happy for him because he's a quality player still.
Yeah, I'm glad he found a team finally. Hopefully he can bring some good to them. I was shocked when I saw him because I completely forgot he had signed with Florentina.
Yeah, and Milan Pulisic got the goal, but um, Goodmanson ended up getting the winner for Fiorentina. So yeah, I think maybe we can just before we kind of log off, just summarize some of the big teams like standings in the table so far before international break. So in Serie A, we have Napoli at first, um, 16 points, one loss and one draw. Inter at second with 14. Juventus at third. We have Milan at six. Um, Atalanta at eight, followed by Roma. Um, and then surprisingly, Como at 14th, middle of the table.
Also, real quick, Juventus, crazy this weekend. First time they conceded this season.
Oh, was it?
Or in La Liga, first time they conceded in
Or
La Liga.
Serie A?
Or, I mean, Serie A, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is impressive. Yeah, I don't think we touched on Bayern either, but they had kind of a shocking result too this weekend, tying 3-3. Um, but they're still at the top of the table, um, followed by Leipzig. And then Leverkusen this year, they're at fifth place. Dortmund is at seventh. Dortmund's been struggling in the Bundesliga this year. They lost this past weekend um, to Union Berlin, but we'll see if they can get some Champions League magic again. That's a team that I thought was fairly lucky last year.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a miracle of a run.
and then Stuttgart, it's a team I like to watch. They're in eighth. Uh, do you want to cover the Serie A? And you can definitely cover the French league. I don't know if you've have any updates from us, our Liga
Uh,
reporter
Liga
here.
reporter. Yeah, so for the League or the McDonald's League now, can you take a guess who is in first place?
Um, so PSG is probably. I see. I have no idea. I'm gonna say maybe Marseille,
No, but yeah, it's not PSG, it's Monaco. They're in
Monaco.
first.
Interesting.
PSG second. Marseille, I think this is both of our Ligue 1 team right here. They're in third.
That's not a team that I'd necessarily enjoy. I actually like a lot of players on Lyon. Where's Lyon sitting this year?
They're in eighth.
Ew,
Yeah.
stinky.
So Marseille, not this past weekend, but the previous weekend, they took their first L, and then this past weekend they tied. Um,
Yeah, I'm curious with Marseille how they've looked going forward, or is it defensive struggles that they've had, or is it
uh,
even?
Going forward, they're probably one of the scarier teams.
Mhm.
Behind PSG. Defensively, they can be like shaky, not as disciplined. But that's not too surprising considering who their manager is. De Zerbi, I think he's a very progressive thinking manager going forward. Um, but then they did end up signing Rabiot on a free transfer. It's a nice signing. Um, Having Højbjerg and Rabiot bring some
Mhm.
experience. So yeah, first Monaco, second PSG, and third Marseille.
I'm just waiting for Leon, honestly. That attack just screams goals with Lacazette, Zaha, Benrahma, um, the Georgian forward, uh, M Mika Tuesday or something.
Yeah, the dude with like the buzz cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their midfield, I mean, they got Nemanja Matic, Diwata, um,
Crazy Matic
Tolisso,
still plays.
and they recently signed Nathan Niles as well.
And then what's the other league we have left for the table? You went over Serie A.
La
La
Liga.
Liga.
Hmm.
So La Liga, first place. Shocking, not Real Madrid, but first place is Barcelona. Second is Real Madrid. Third is Atletico. Fourth, Villarreal. Fifth, Osasuna. And sixth is Athletic Club. Um, Valencia is sitting in 18th. Real Sociedad is sitting in 15th.
Hmm. Valencia is kind of a surpriser right now.
Yeah, I don't think they should be sitting that low.
I think they're just gonna be having trouble finding goals this year, um, with not many attacking threats. So Georgie Marmadashvili, the goalkeeper, he's solid, but um, I don't think I don't remember them really signing anyone going forward
No, I
to
don't.
carry them.
Yeah, I can't recall. I don't think so. I think they're still also relying on. I wonder if they still have Danny Parejo. I don't think so.
Yeah, he might have left, but I mean, they were one of the lower scoring, like top 10 teams last year. So still relying on that defense.
All right. So thank you all for listening to another episode of Super Subs podcast. Like we mentioned, this weekend will be the international break. So next podcast, we might touch on a few of the international games. But hopefully no injuries. I know that's the one downfall of having an international break is sometimes there's injuries that could hinder your club. Um, but until next time, thank you again for listening. I've been your host, Narvin Amatia.
And Harish, peace out.